Good morning, Trap Talk listeners. Zach Nannini here with some more thoughts from the road. That being said, I want to cover something that was very recently in my heart, which was shooting in the wind. We just got back from Tucson, Arizona, the Autumn Grand. It was pretty windy. Targets were blowing around, and some people asked, what do you do in the wind? What's the difference in shooting a windy target versus a calm target? So figured I would cover it. I think it matters what game you're shooting a little bit, but let's just start with singles. In the singles, Ricky Marshall broke a 199, and Wyatt Debris, my squad mate, broke a 200 and actually won the championship, so congratulations to Wyatt. But one thing I will say is in the morning, the targets were getting blown around a lot. I think at the 16-yard line, when you're dealing with the wind, and the targets are blowing up and down and up and down and up and down, I think it's more important to be a little bit more patient and see where the target's at. So I was watching Ricky, I was watching Wyatt, and there were some targets that went down, there were some targets that went up. If it went up, they went up and shot it. If it went down, they went down and shot it. Some people will say, well, in the wind, you're supposed to shoot faster so you can beat the target before it gets to a point where the wind's messing with it. I would say in singles, I would probably disagree with that, because at that distance, with your choke, with your shell, I mean, that target's never really going to get out of range. So I think the most important thing in the wind is getting a really good look at the target. Make sure you see the target well. Make sure you're watching what it's doing. And I'm not saying aim or be cautious, but I am saying see the target and react to what it's doing in the air, and go from there. I think being smooth and deliberate in a heavy wind area is not necessarily a bad thing when we're dealing with singles. Now, that being said, transitioning to handicap, I got the pleasure of watching Mr. Richard Marshall break a lone 96 on the championship handicap, and he won. And it was windy. It was really windy, folks. I mean, targets were up and down and up and down and up and down. Now, what I think, and this is just my observation, so take it for what you will, is I think that the targets were getting broke rather aggressively. So I think that same rule where you would really take your time and really look at a target at 16 yards, that's not what I was seeing. That's not what I was seeing working that day. I was seeing, a more aggressive shot, and, maybe you're not able to hit 100 that way, but I think if you can get that target and you see it out the house and you put a good aggressive move on it up front, I think that's a better way of approaching it. Now, what I did see with Ricky, which was powerful, is the way he presses all the way through the target. So he's using a lot of his legs, he's using his core, he's using his strength, he's behind that gun, and he's driving through that target all the way. So, when that target's going off to the side, Ricky's getting through it all the way. And I think in the wind, people have often got knocked off balance because they're getting blown around, and maybe they're on their heels, maybe they're not driving the gun all the way, and their gun kind of comes into the target soft and they shoot behind a lot. I'm seeing that happen a lot in the wind. I'm also seeing, because the wind's blowing their barrel around, they're not really holding still, and so when they call pull, they're just kind of bouncing around, and then they just kind of, huck the gun over at the target. I really think you have to try to get still. That's hard to do, but I also think that you have to drive with your whole body. Now, I'm not saying that you don't need to do that all the time. I think we should use our whole body, legs, torso, shoulders, every part of our body other than the arms into the shot, whether it's windy or whether it's calm. But I can tell you, Ricky's using his whole body all the time, but I could really see that press on a windy day, and he's really coming through that target. And that could be because the targets are a little bit faster. I mean, you dictate that to speed of the bird. But just, observations of what I'm seeing is working is, making sure you're finishing that shot all the way, getting all the way through the target. So I think the targets that I did see get missed across the board, just walking the line, were people that were like riding that target out and they were letting it get to apex and they were trying to shoot it at apex from distance. I don't know how that's going to work consistently, folks, with that much distance and with that much air and with that much lag time. That target could bounce out at that last minute. So, you know, the people that I watched that were shooting really good scores, Dennis Bringleson, Ricky, a few others, they were, you know, seeing the line out of the house and living with the one shot they were making. They were driving through it and shooting. And whether they hit it or miss it, they were committed. They weren't, you know, really taking the time to say, oh, well, I'm really going to gingerly aim this target out or point this out to an apex. It's not what I was seeing. So hope this is helpful. I think it's got to be something that you're thinking about, at least in your game, if you haven't, because I know a lot of people go off the rails when they see wind. I really think that the biggest thing about shooting in a windy day is just mentally be prepared for it and don't let it beat you, because, you know, there was at no point in time did I see Ricky, you know, get into a zone where he was, oh, I'm scared of the wind. Like, that just didn't happen. He was fully intending to run 100. You know, he hit 96, but his intentions were 100 right off the bat, and you could tell that by his poise. So I think people need to focus on their mindset going into that windy day, not getting themselves talked out of a good score just because the conditions are not there. Be prepared, and then do the best you can with the shot you've got. I'd say be a little bit more aggressive from the distance, and then be a little bit more thoughtful and smooth up close. That's my thoughts from the road today. So look forward to seeing you guys soon.